Hello friends, we are back with today's topics. Today's current affairs topics would include women's political empowerment through legislature, mumps disease on the rise in Kerala, digital financial frauds in India and the need to control them, India's falling fertility rate and its effect, education, importance of security of the examination papers, and the talk about gaining practical experience. So we talk about the first one, charting women's trajectory in parliaments globally. As of 2022, in close to 60 countries, the share of women in parliament is either 20% or less. We know that the representation of women is so low, while when we talk about the population levels, their population are somewhere close to 47 to 53% globally in any country. So even half of the population gets the political representation in lesser quantities, and that is also one of the way which is actually keeping women less empowered. When we talk about women empowerment, there are multiple angles to it. It should happen through politics, means there is a political empowerment. Then there is another one that is called economic empowerment. Then there is another one that is called socio-economic empowerment. So these political empowerment, economic empowerment, socio-economic empowerment, etc. make the women empowerment story all fulsome. When we talk about the political empowerment means when women actually gets representation in the legislatures of that particular house. The more women are elected, there is a more greater chance that they will be making schemes and policies first hand by including their own experiences into it. What generally happens is women have to bear or women have to follow the policies that have been made partially by women but mostly by male members. So whenever the political schemes are drawn by themselves only, then it can become one of the major way to achieve empowerment. Not only the schemes, but going and representing in the legislatures also gives them empowerment where they can come out of the shadow of their houses and they can start, representing their voices, their own setup, their own way of thinking. As we know, women folks generally have more sensitivity towards some issues. So when there is a more sensitivity, humanitarian crisis across the globe that is happening, it can be one of the medium where human crisis or humanitarian crisis can be dealt with. Even when we talk about women parliament access, then the climate justice, that is a phenomena, women empowerment or women representation in parliaments or legislatures is supposed to give them a firm hand in dealing with even climate related things in a much more comprehensible manner. Then we talk about the second one, and that is called economic empowerment. Economic empowerment can happen when number one, there is an equal pay for equal work. Women and male, both of them doing equal work should get the equal pay. Number two, financial inclusion plays a bigger role in economic empowerment. Financial inclusion happens when a bottom person living at the bottom state of the society at the remotest corner of our country gets financial instruments, and those through those financial instruments like banking accounts, like any kind of UPI related service, etc., he can then not only do transactions but he can also secure loans from the banks at a cheaper rate, and he or she can be in a position to do some sort of economic activity based on the money that he receives. So economic empowerment is necessary for women to become fully empowered. Third comes about the socio-economic empowerment. What is the socio-economic empowerment? When women folks are given a firm hand in deciding about the social roles. When we talk about, suppose there is some function in the family, right now what happens is it is the male member who will sit at the outside gates or even at the front gates, while women members will be subjugated or will be sent to the or will be sitting in the nearby complex or in the inner complex of that particular premise. Even that also does not give them the firm hand or a first hand experience of what the outside sphere is all about. All these superstitions etc have been primarily made for women only, that they have to follow so many social norms, and these social norms are not necessarily empowered for themselves. They do not bring empowerment for them. A socio-economic framework can also be when the child marriages are done, when the divorce, there is a further blowback by the society when women folks seek divorce. There is a further blowback when women actually go and seek education outside. So these kind of things, even a sati pratha, even a sexual harassment, even any kind of thing was, as the courts also told, it was against women earlier. So socioeconomic empowerment, till that time it happens, women's trajectory in empowerment can remain little silent. So when we talk about women's trajectory in parliament, then again we have to quote this data that as of 2022, in close to 60 countries, the share of women in parliament was 20% or less. The year 2024, as we know, is being held as one of the biggest year for democracy, with 45% of global population is preparing to exercise election. Principal among them is India, even the United States of America. So these countries are going for elections, and whenever there are elections, talk about the women folks also increase. When we talk about two observations, then number one, share of the countries with universal right to vote. Universal right to vote, there has been a significant rise among this kind of thing. When we talk about the legislations, those have been, implemented. We will talk about New Zealand's role. New Zealand stands out as a pioneer in breaking the pattern of male and female discrimination in status or parliamentary representation. It allowed voting for women alongside men in 1893. Despite women giving suffrage in more countries, the gap between male and female political participation widened. You see, women empowerment also in political sphere was done through the suffrage that was allowed to them, or the voting rights that were allowed to them. As we also know, since we started our independent journey in 1947, India provided women also the same voting rights as it was provided in other countries, or it was provided to male in our country. But when we talk about the early 20th century, despite women gaining suffrage in more countries, the gap between male and female political participation widened in the early 20th century. By the onset of the World War II, men had voting rights in a higher proportion while comparable to women. So this also, the disparity became stark. When there was a rapid closure of the gap between male and female political participation rapidly closed after the discrimination against women in voting rights ended in many countries. So, a voting right also gives a women folks entry into, or at least some say into, their political representation. When we also talk about the women gap between male and women in the political participation, then we can also talk about the chief executive refers role also. Gender disparity in political chief executive is also at a rampant stage. There is a limited increase in the female leadership in that aspect also. Persistent gender disparity also prevails. When we talk about that, in early 20th century, women were largely absent from national parliaments across the globe. That's why they started getting the suffrage rights or voting rights. There was a surge of women in parliament in the later half of the 20th century. As you also know, India implemented the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Acts. Why? Because it wanted to give women 33% reservation in the local body elections. And look at the benefit of it. India has now, by 128th Constitutional Amendment, it has allowed women representation in parliament, or the quota for women representation, to become 1/3. So this is the level. Now imagine a situation when after the next Lok Sabha elections, the women in the Lok Sabha would be more than 1/3. The parliament will not only look afresh, but will also gain strategic inputs for the women folks by the women folks themselves. So 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act and 128th Constitutional Amendment Act in India are supposed to go a long way in ensuring that women trajectory in parliament improves. Not only India's standing across the countries will also increase, but there will be more countries who will take heart from this kind of fact, and they may tomorrow also increase their own efforts to bring women into their own parliaments by increasing the representation levels. So this was our first topic. We now come to the second topic, and that is about rise in mumps in Kerala. So what is the mumps disease? When we talk about Kerala, Kerala is one among states in India which has a major public infrastructure for health, and that public infrastructure in health is in a wonderful state. When we were talking about corona crisis in our country, it was Kerala which was supposed to deal with corona crisis also in a very firm and very institutional manner. When we talk about Kerala social indicators, the health parameters of Kerala or health indicators of Kerala are so good. Malnutrition levels there are down, anemic levels are also down, and the vaccinated people are also on the up as compared to other states of our country. In Kerala, the only state is witnessing an alarming increase in the rise of mumps in children and adolescents. Mumps is an acute, first of all, you should know that what is mumps. So mumps is an acute viral infection which historically affects children, has been spreading like wildfire in Kerala for the past few months. The resurgence in cases also was reported from several states including Maharashtra, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. Cases which began appearing sporadically since November 2023 have now since spread to other districts in Kerala also. This year's tally is close to 15,000 as of now, with 6,000 cases being reported this month alone. Such an unconditional surge in cases could lead to an increase in the number of complications in mumps like number 1, meningoencephalitis or pancreatitis. Why it's a cause of concern? Mumps is a self-limiting airborne viral disease, and it presents a fever and headache in mostly children and adolescents with painfully swelling on salivary glands. There is no specific treatment. So first of all, we should know that there is no specific treatment. And patient recovers with rest and symptomatic symptoms goes away like that only. With only half of the infected children developing the classical disease and close to 30% remaining asymptomatic, cases mostly go unreported. So from the view of public health, measles, which can cause significant morbidity and mortality, has always considered a priority rather than mumps. Measles has always got a priority rather than mumps, because mumps, number one, there is no specific treatment, number one, and these are not so morbidity rates and mortality rates are not higher in mumps. That's why measles gets more priority. However, as the cases are being reported in epidemic proportions, several cases arising from complications of mumps like encephalitis, epilepsy, aseptic meningitis and acute pancreatitis have been reported in the college hospitals. Why is the mumps vaccine not part of the... So you should also know that mumps vaccine is not a part of the national immunization schedule. As you know, universal immunization program is one program which India is running. What is universalization immunization program? This is actually to provide people, especially children, the vaccines. So the thing is, or idea is to vaccinate whole population of children in our country. So because of the mumps disease no mortality profile, this particular vaccine is not a part of the UIP, that is Universal Immunization Program. However, the Indian Academy of Pediatrics has always maintained that public health significance of mumps has been underestimated, mainly because of the poor documentation of clinical cases. So there is very little information on the actual long-term morbidity profile of the diseases, even though the disease is known to have some impact on the reproductive organs. That's why there is a case that is being meted out, is that that is being made out is that mumps also should be included, mumps vaccine should be included, there should be specific treatment also, and mumps vaccine should be made part of the UIP program, universal immunization program. What should be the strategy? According to the World Health Organization, vaccination strategies targeting mumps control should be closely integrated with the existing measles elimination and rubella control. The use of mumps, measles, rubella vaccine in universal immunization program is being advocated. There are no studies from India on the effectiveness of mumps vaccine, but globally, the protection from 2 doses is estimated to have reduced the chances by 75 to 90%. Now you know what is mumps, why it is on the rise in Kerala, and why the universal immunization program does not have this in its list of vaccine that it provides despite measles being there. So now the advocates are increasing that mumps also should be included into this one. So Kerala is one state which has a wonderful health infrastructure. We now will be talking about the digital financial frauds in India and why there is a need for improved investigation strategies. So first of all, we would be understanding what is digital financial fraud. Any financial fraud that is happening through the way of digital is called a digital financial fraud. These digitals can be through smartphones, can be through any social media channels, or can be through any kind of OTP sharing. So why there is a rise in the digital financial frauds? Number one, because of the rise in the smartphone penetration. The more the smartphones are, the better actually are chances for the fraudsters to impersonate and do their own things. Number two, because of the rise in the internet services and proliferation of banking apps, applications about the digital financial services. Number third, mostly about the financial inclusion drive that the government of India and other state governments are running through making banking accounts and giving them loans or any other facilities or direct benefit transfers, etc., through phones itself. So these kind of processes also increase the digital financial services in our country. So when we talk about, there is a recent report by Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center, and it reveals that digital financial frauds has accounted close to 1.25 lakh crore rupees over the last 3 years. So this question can be asked in GS3, what about the cyber crimes, or what about the digital financial frauds and how they are on the rise and why there is a call for investigations into that. So you can improve or you can write about the few of the data stats. Number one, according to National Crime Records Bureau, cybercrimes in India resulted in a staggering loss of 66 crore rupees with 4,850 reported cases, while there are many cases actually which go unreported. A recent report by Indian Cyber Crime Coordination Center revealed that digital financial frauds accounted for close to 1.25 lakh crore rupees over 3 years. According to National Cybercrime Reporting Portal, at least 10,000 crore rupees was reported to be lost by victims of digital financial fraud. There was a Parliamentary Standing Committee on Finance, and in its report, it talked about cybersecurity and rising incidents of cyber and white collar crimes. It also mentioned that the domestic fraud, as reported by supervising entities in fiscal year 23, was 2,537 crore rupees. So the number of complaints received was alone 6.94 lakh. So this is the huge, gigantic figure in which the cases are reporting are only being talked about. We also do not know that where are the other cases which are going unreported. Some of the problems faced during investigations are highlighted here. So one of the major reasons behind digital financial fraud is also the inability of the law enforcement agencies to track down the intermediaries or track down all those who target it. So there is now a need for or solution for both prevention and detention. While various names have been given by diverse types of frauds, the general modus operandi of fraudster is number one, convincing the victim to send money either by impersonation like fake WhatsApp, FB, Instagram, etc., or giving them a false promise of greater return. We sometimes understand that there is some person calling and he would be appearing on WhatsApp or Facebook or any other video call just like he is our relative. So this can be one of the way in which we feel that our relative or our nearest one are in danger, so let us give them the money. Second reason is by taking credentials such as UPI, or PIN number, or OTPs, or internet banking IDs. So these are the two major causes by which the digital financial is on the rise. Number third, these people also take credit card and convince the victim to share credit card details, and these people actually convince the victim to share OTPs. After the scam, after a fraudster empties a victim's bank account, the money undergoes a series of circulations. So this is also where we can take a greater advantage of the technology to remove these kind of hurdles in the investigations, because once the money is deducted from the bank account of a particular person, it undergoes a series of circulation in broadly three stages. The first stage is temporary account, into which the fraudsters transfer victims money. This account will be used to receive money from various other victims also. The money from here is then transferred into a second stage account. The second category of accounts are a group of accounts among which money is circulated. There are a lot of middlemen actually who are money circulators. This task is only to receive money from the first level bank accounts, and from that they receive a nominal cut. The victim's money is then split into smaller parts and then circulated into these accounts. But after certain churning, the money is transferred into the third stage account, which is a sink account. The money is then withdrawn in a large chunk through conventional methods of either ATMs or other outlets. So how the frauds can be prevented? Most frauds can be prevented with some of the basic technological interventions, like how Google accounts do not allow login from a new device unless permission is granted by the former, or financial institutions must be mandated to replicate this feature in their apps. As soon as a UPI app or password or OTP is entered in a different device, an alert must be generated into the previous device with no further action being allowed. One of the biggest hindrances law enforcement agencies face is in following money trail. So money trail follow in all these three account types, where the first level accounts, second level accounts, and the third level accounts, just like money laundering sort of thing, should be also more investigated. Speeding up information access also. Certain basic changes to the form of data provided to the enforcement agencies can help in minimizing delays. The banks like NBFCs, small finance banks, etc., must be mandated to provide data in a predetermined format with all the terms and conditions explained. Once the data is provided, the international mobile equipment identity must also be recorded. All banking financial apps must be mandated to save IMEI number of the devices. So Bharatiya Nagrik Nyay Samhita 2023, which is set to replace the Indian Penal Code, recognizes organized crime as a continuous unlawful activity. Digital financial frauds are very much covered in this definition. So law enforcement agencies face a lot of difficulties in conducting interstate raids and arrest. It requires a large team and coordinated efforts. So to facilitate the lot of difficulties, that the interstate raids and arrest also provide to law enforcement agencies, it should be, or the interstate digital financial fraud networks must be recognized as a serious crime, and bail must be restricted by the court. So these are the things actually by which we can always control the financial frauds, and technology can help us in that. We now move on to the fourth topic, and that is India's falling fertility rate. So India's total fertility rate, that is depicted by TFR, and TFR is one by which average number of children, this is average number of children that are born to a woman. Now it is supposed to fall to 1.291 by 2050. When it is at 2.1, this is termed as a replacement number. Replacement number means 2.1. If a woman is giving birth to 2.1 children, then this is enough for keeping the population at a stable level. Anything actually that goes below 2.1 then can be a cause for the population decrease. And India's total fertility rate has been on a decline for quite some time now. Southern states actually show the decline first, and then after the northern states have also showing that particular decline. It happens because of the rise in income levels, rise in education also, and because of the population control program that the government of India or union or state governments has been running. So total fertility rate, according to one estimate, is supposed to decline to 1.29 by 2050. That is far lower than the replacement rate, the level of fertility age with a population exactly replaces itself from one generation to the next. India's total fertility rate, if we talk about, it was 6.18 in 1950, 4.60 in 1981, and 1.91 in 2021. Head of the Center for Study and Social Inclusion talk about that this scenario was expected given India's post-independence population control program. In urban areas, many have chosen not to have children at all. So urbanization is also one of the reasons behind economic and educational empowerment also. There is an economic dimension. Parents now do not receive much benefit from their children the way they used to do this. Because earlier there used to be tasks actually which used to be more laborious. And agriculture would be agriculture at that time would be employing more people. So people wanted, the desire was there to have children in their homes rather than getting from outside. But today's job profile has also made it like that, in which there is a lesser dependency on children or the offspring to participate in their economic activities. The consequences of the fertility decline will be there to share for the elderly in the population will increase sharply. So once the fertility rates fall, then it is absolutely certain that the people will become aged, and those people who will require support system in the time of their aging will be then lower. So there will be lower people who would be taking care of these kind of things. When we talk about the economic effects of it, so economic effects will be that there will be lesser people who would be earning, and there will be higher people who will be dependent on them. So lesser earning number of people will then affect the employment levels in the country, and the GDP of the country can also get affected. Although the resource consumption will become lesser, but employment activities and GDP activities will decrease. Affordable childcare, investing in healthcare, and taking a large-scale male engagement initiatives to build gender equity, economic policies that stimulate growth and job creation alongside social security and pension reforms will also be essential in mitigating the impacts of declining fertility rate. And we also know that it is China which is bearing the brunt of falling fertility rate. Its population is aging faster than expected, so it has also stopped one-child policy from implementation in China. It has even started giving incentives to parents, those who want to have even a third child. Why so? Because of the younger demographics are more, where they earn more and there is a lesser dependency. India can also think into that aspect, because 1.25, 1.29 fertility rate by 2050 is going to be a little bit alarming for Indian population perspective or Indian policy makers. We now come to a little topic that is about question of security. Fail-proof measures. As we know that paper leaks are on a rampant stage. Recently we saw there was a paper leak incident in Rajasthan, in Uttar Pradesh, etc. The issue of question paper leakages has been a vexing problem in education. Just take a look at the following example. January 2014, Rajasthan teacher recruitment examination. April 2023, a teacher leaked a class 10 question paper in Telangana. 2024, government employees were arrested with regard to a recruitment exam for a junior engineers in Rajasthan. 2003, the CAT examination paper was leaked. In Uttar Pradesh, recently 43 lakh candidates were appearing for a particular examination center, but it got leaked. IIT JEE question paper was leaked in 1997. So with exams being conducted in offline and online mode, the question paper security becomes even more paramount. So the security process that should happen, number one, it can happen at where the papers are being printed. So where the papers are being printed, we need to make sure that the representative of the examination organization should be physically present. The printer for question paper should be selected on the basis of reputation rather than being on the lower costs. So because here also the chances are that the papers while printing also get leaked. The packets for papers those have been printed should be received by superintendent officers of each center, who should store them securely until the examination is over. On the other hand, when the question paper is sent to the examination center to be printed, the email should be encrypted and the password should be made available to the designated authority only. When it comes to the online mode, when it comes to the online examination, in many cases the paper may differ from candidates to candidates. However, technical glitches can affect the conduct of the examination. That is what happened in the first edition of the Common University Entrance Examination in 2022. So these technical snacks also can be met by this particular experience. So paper leak is a major incident by which fate of the people, meritocracy of the people, etc. goes for a toss. Even there is a cost and time run, because when the paper leaks happen, then the question paper also get, sometime the examination is itself cancelled, and because of the cancellation in examination, there is both time and cost disadvantage to the people who are preparing them very very seriously. So government should think to remove these kind of hurdles from the fortunes of the people or students, and should include a medium by which not only the security but how the papers are transported, etc., how they are printed, how in the online and offline mode, all these steps should be taken. There is also an advocacy to gain practical experience in education. Practical experience in education helps large way, number one, to not only provide a career progression but also provide a confidence level and a security to the career itself when in the emergencies lot many people are fired. So it is always suggested that those people who are working or should or those people who want to get employment should always work on gaining not only practical experiences but also diversify their skills. So these are the data points that we are covering today. The current affairs topic, if you like, you can like. For more such videos, you can like the button and subscribe the channel. Thank you.